In the cold winter, the howling north the howling north wind blows and the snow on the roof was blown off. The sun shines through the clouds and pours on the earth, but I can't feel any warmth. It's freezing. The crunching sound of footsteps on the snow. In the cold winter, the howling north wind blows and the snow on the roof was blown off. The sun shines through the clouds and pours on the earth, but I can't feel any warmth. It's freezing. The crunching sound of footsteps on the snow came. The maid carried medicinal food into Yongning Pavilion. Unlike the biting cold outside, Yongning Pavilion is full of spring. The charcoal burning in the incense burner emits a breath. Tea. Here are thick and soft cushions. On the soft couch beside, a young woman holds half the aperture book, lying and closing her eyes to take in up. She was only wearing a light gauzy dress, and her smooth long hair is scattered, free lie like a black satin. Her eyebrows are even, with a beautiful appearance. She looks like a goddess coming out of Amural. She can only be admired from a distance. The maid carefully placed the medicinal meals on the table, but still inevitably made a faint sound. The woman on the soft couch. In the cold winter, the howling north wind blows and the snow on the roof was blown off. The sun shines through the clouds and pours on the earth, but I can't feel any warmth. It's freezing. The crunching sound of footsteps on the snow came. The maid carried medicinal food into Yongning Pavilion. Unlike the biting cold outside, Yongning Pavilion is full of spring. The charcoal burning in the incense burner emits a breath. Tea. Here are thick and soft cushions. On the soft couch beside, a young woman holds half the aperture book, lying and closing her eyes to take in up. She was only wearing a light gauzy dress, and her smooth long hair is scattered, free lie like a black satin. Her eyebrows are even, with a beautiful appearance. She looks like a goddess coming out of Amural. She can only be admired from a distance. The maid carefully placed the medicinal meals on the table, but still inevitably made a faint sound. The woman on the soft couch slowly opened her eyes. Her slender and curly eyelashes cast a faint shadow on her fair face. Seeing this, knees let down with applause with a trembling voices. Miss, forgive me. I know my mistake. I know my mistake. Kiao Wanyan slightly frowned. The maid Ziyuan stepped forward. You blind things. Forgive miss. I'll beat you to death with this weapon today. Ziyuan grabbed the little maid's collar and raised her hand to slap her. But when her palm was about to fall on her face, a clear and pleasant voice came from behind. It's so noisy that it hurts my head. Let him out. Kiao Wanyan massaged her temples with half-a closed eyes. She was not in a good mood. The winter weather is really too cold. She went to the banquet of the Grand Preceptor half a month ago and caught a cold when she came back. She stayed in her bedroom to recover. Bored, so she asked Ziyuan to buy some picture books to pass the time. Who would have thought the comic? The book she took was Raring Books. The content of the book matched. Himself and those around her matched. In the comics, she is the most favored daughter in the family. She is the most talented and beautiful girl in the capital. Her childhood sweetheart is the son of the most, like life favorite concubine to be the prince. Even if she can bend the mother of the country, she will be a noble princess. But she is a villain who abandons her childhood sweetheart, covets power and vain villains. Her birth is to set off the heroine, who is his elder sister Kiao Yihuan. He Yanli, his childhood sweetheart, was down and out. He abandoned her without hesitation. He was trampled and humiliated in the dirt because he was angry that his years of efforts were in vain, and finally focused on the second prince, who was made the crown prince. Unfortunate. The prince likes his elder sister, Kiao Yihuan. She's so wetting discord, poisoning her elder sister. She was evil. In order to gain power and status, she'll do anything to get it. But in the end, after much trouble, she didn't get anything she wanted, but died tragically at the hands of Kiao Yihuan Sadmire. On the contrary, Kiao Yihuan did nothing. There are countless men who are willing to do anything for her. And finally came the princess. She will have a bright futures. The two daughters. One of the Kiao family has all resources and favors, but she played her cards badly, while the other is disfavored concubines. But she made a good life with the bad hands. In recent years, she has indeed followed the storybook, used all her schemings and means to the prince. But he only likes Kiao Yihuan, but he never even looked at her. In the dream just now, a real voice kept ringing. Let go of greed. Cleanse yourself. Be a kind-hearted person befriends Qiao Yihuan and honestly set him off. Only in this way can she live a good life. Qiao Wanyan looked at the burning flame in the incense burner. Reminds her of her final ending in the storybook. She was tortured and killed by Qiao Yihuan's admirer, dying in the Permanine land because the words in the storybook were too terrifying. She even dreamed of her future in her dream. How her face was slashed and bloody. His tendons and ligaments were cut off, and his tongue was cut off. His eyes were gouged out. He was tortured to death. Qiao Wanyan nodded, looked at the comic book in her hand, but she didn't when the comic book in her hand disappeared. He clearly fell asleep with it in his hand. Ziyuan, where is the comic book in my hand? Ziyuan was also a little surprised. Miss was holding the book when she fell asleep. She saw it when she just woke up. How could it disappear in the blink of an eye? She searched for a long time, but couldn't find it. It just disappeared out of thin air. At this moment, a maid's voice came from outside the door. Madam is calling you over. Qiao Wanyan stood up. Ziyuan, you don't have to go with me. Stay and look for the picture book carefully. She only saw Qiao Yihuan were coming the princess, but fell asleep before reading the rest of the pages. After dressing up, Qiao Wanyan put on a thick white cloak and went out. She was born with a good appearance. Her face is like a peach blossom blooming in spring. Her skin is as smooth as They realized that she was the hardest to serve. Keep your voice down. Don't let anyone hear. Am I wrong? The eldest young lady is also a master. Why are all the good things in the mansion are all sent to Yang Ning Pavilion first? The second young lady caught a cold and was served like on store. My eldest young lady has to use quilts to keep warm. Stop talking. If it weren't for the eldest young lady keeping butterflies and used too much charcoal, Miss Charcoal is enough. Xiaoyan read at him. What do you know? Father is biased. Both are daughters, but he can treat them equally. Isn't it because the second young lady has a charming appearances and thinks she has a better's chance to marry the prince? Don't you think about the prince likes our eldest young lady? The maid next to her still wanted to persuaded, but when she saw the person walking towards the gate, she immediately LT on the ground. Xiaoyan also turned around when she saw the person coming. Her heart skipped a beat, but after a moment, he stood there firmly again. He was right. The fact is like this. There's nothing to be guilty of. The young lady is kind-hearted, but he couldn't bear it. The prince does like his young lady. Everyone in the capital knows it. Qiao Wanyan walked up to him. The dream Sadvis was always in her mind. Don't they feud with the heroine, Qiao Yihuan, and don't embarrass the people around the heroine. Be a good person. Cleanse yourself and repent. Only in this way can you survive. A crisp slap sounded. Qiao Wanyan looked at him with eyes as if looking at garbage. Whitewash the vicious supporting role. How can you be whitewashed? Shinying was not convinced in her heart, but she didn't dare to refute her words. She only covered her face in indignation. Qiao Banyan's school voice spoke, kneel down. Shinying refused to kneel, but the servant girl behind Qiao Banyan kicked her in the leg. Shinying could only kneel in front of her even though she didn't want to. Fox charming girl, is this how your lady taught you to respect your master behind her back? Shinying gritted her teeth. She had to accompany Miss out of the house in the "Isn't this afternoon delaying, Miss Strip?" Qiao Yan looked at her out of the corner of her eyes. You'll kneel here and go back after sunset. As for your lady's charcoal fire, because of your words, you've lost next month. S will be gone too. With those words, she started to leave. Being someone else slapping dogs? She's been studying hard since she was a child. She's good at music, chess, painting, poetry, wine, flowers, and tea. Why should she be reduced to a green leaf? Why should she be reduced to a green leaf beside someone who is not as good as she is? Because she's not kind enough, not stupid enough, not good enough to be held in the hearts of those men. What's wrong with being power-hungry and vain? It shows that she's motivated. Inside the Hall of Living Clouds, Kiaoyan entered the room and had a sister took the cloak off her body. When Jin saw her come in, she smiled broadly, her eyes full of love. It was as if she was looking at the most perfect piece of work. She was satisfied in her life, loved and proud of it. Jin Shield is not good. Many famous doctors said that she could never had another child. Over the years, she only had one daughter, but she never forced myself to love her daughter because she didn't save a child. Instead, she was joyed at the birth of Kiaoyan. But now, Jin's face was filled with worry. Yan, your grandfather sent a shipment of brocade. When you go back later, pick the colors you like. Kiao Rian's brimming. Peach Blossom eyes blinked. She sat down on a chair by the charcoal fire. Mother, did something happen? Jin sighed, knowing that she could hide it from her. Your father heard something after he left the court. This morning, King Jing will return to the capital. In a few days, Jin wanted to see reaction on her face. But Kiao Ryan's expression was always light, as if she wasn't too surprised. Yan. King Jing nearly killed himself for love. Now that you Ray back in the capital, I'm afraid he'll take revenge on you. She knows what happened back then. It was fine if King Jing stayed in northern darkness all this time. But now that he's back in the capital, he's so vindictive. She separated her daughter, would be bullied. She shared that love breeds hate. King Jing has never had a woman with him in northern darkness. Some people sent him beauties to please him, but in the end, none of them stayed. He once said he hated all women, especially in the capital. There was a woman he hated the most in his life, Kiao. Wuyan held her hand and gently stroked it. Her voice was shallow. Mother, I was once the moonlight in his heart. Time will only make him forget my shortly in the books. Everyone loves the gentle, weak and understanding Kiao Yihuan, not a woman like herself who can keep her face. She's not incapable of pretending to be a good girl. She wanted everyone to like her. She wanted to make those who had blocked her way to the top of the ladder. She wants those who have blocked her path to greatness to open up a wide path for her, to be admired and honored by all. A woman cannot control the power of the world then. Let those who control the power be controlled by her. That's all. You know what you're doing. That's right. Mother, pick one of those brocades and send it to Kiao Yuan. Jin didn't know what to make of it. Such good material is extremely rare even in the capital. Such good material is extremely rare in the capital. So why send it to her? Kiao Ryan smiled. I have my own arrangements. After Ashert, well, Kiao Wenyan got up and went back. The book was still missing, as if it never existed. I searched all over Yongning Pavilion, but I couldn't find it. In the afternoon, Kiao Yan finally left the house after half a month. The beauty with clouds and temples and flowery face got out of the car. Her eyes and brows were like distant mountains. Her lips looked like sand without any coloring. In the past, she always wore the most exquisite makeup. She wears the most gorgeous, colorful dresses. But today, she's dressed like this with a plain face for no reason at all. She looks harmless and pure. It's like Aphrodite, treasure that one would want to take care of and cherish, without even really seeing it. Its rs up the deepest softness in one sheer. And the snow on the roof is the most blown off silver. The sun shines in the capital. Clouds and pores on the earth. Hair, but I can't feel any warmth. That it's freezing. Irregular here. The crunching sound of footsteps on the snow cave. Since Miss Jo came here, medicinal. Their food into Yongning Pavilion. Jewelry in the store. The biting cold would you like to taste it? Yongning Pavilion shopkeeper was full of smiles. The charcoal burning happy to see the golden girl. Burner he could have squeezed her eyes out. Here are thick and followed the shopkeeper to the second floor. On the soft couch looking at the jewelry, a young woman holds half the aperture like a treasure, lying there all closing her eyes to take it up. She was only wearing a light gauzy dress. Shopkeeper smelled her couldn't suppress. Smooth long hair is scattered. Free lie like a black satin. Her eyebrows are even best, with a beautiful appearance. She looks like a goddess coming out of Amural. She can only be admired from a distance. When she heard this, the maid carefully placed why do you want to give her the meals on the table? I heard that but today. Still inevitably made a faint sound. Called you a the woman girl. On the soft couch slowly opened her eyes. To see you leave the house before you and recovered from eyelashes. And now you're giving her shadow on her fair beautiful pendant. Seeing I'm this, furious. Knees let down with the flops to the second trembling voices. You misforgive me in his tracks. I know my mistake. Heard those words. I know my mistake. Isn't that Yi-Al's personal maid? Slightly frowned. The maid Ziyuan's grandfather sent me some. You blind brocade today. Forgive me. Mother sent one to I'll beat you to death with this weapon thought today. This would go well with her brocade. Grabbed the little maid. Not too. Call her and raised her hand to slap her. Nothing to do with. But when her palm was about to fall on her face, does know the clear and pleasant voice came from behind. Understand it's so noisy that it hurts my head. If someone had dared to call her foxy bitches in the past, temples would have closed eyes. Broken his legs she was not in a good mood. Today, the winter weather punished for kneeling too cold. And you even she went to the banquet of such a beautiful preceptor half amonth ago, master and caught a cold when she came back. She stayed in her bedroom to recover. Kite so is she furious. To miss a servant doesn't know the rules. To pass the time. It's because the master condemns it. The book she took was so much. Perhaps the content of the book matched. Chewing on you behind your back. And those around her match. In my opinion, in the comics, you should ask Madam. She is the most favored daughter in the family. She is the most talented over you next time. Beautiful girl in the capital. Her childhood sweetheart is the son of the most. Today. I know you're doing this for me, to be the prince. But even if she grew up with her mother of the country, she will be a noble princess. Not to mention that she is a villain who abandons. It would be good for sweetheart sister to have a good home in the future. Her birth is to set off the heroine. Who is his elder sister too? Mingxiang Pavilion right now. His childhood sweetheart was down and out and shoving Qiao Yuan back. Hesitation. Into her mother's swamp. He was tramp-led and humiliated in an agile voice because he was angry that his years over. Efforts were my eldest sister to get married to the man of her dreams, who was in the future. I will never marry and stay with my father. The prince likes his elder sister. Kite felt that this must be a dream. She's so wedding discord. A nightmare. Poisoning her elder sister. A nightmare. She was evil. After paying the money in order to gain power and status. Just walked to the stairway to get it. But to go downstairs after much trouble, Prince, she didn't get walking up the stairs she wanted. She was shocked tragically at the hands her eyes showed shock and dismire. And when she saw him approaching, she did nothing. There are countless men who are willing to do anything for her. My daughter greets your highness, princess. The crown she will have a bright future. Easy is dressed in audio white robe. One of the Qiao family has handsome face and an elegant demeanor. Favors. His hair was tied up like black jade, while the other reflected in his disfavored concubines. But she made a good life with admiration and in recent years. That she desperately tried to follow the storybook. Used all her scheming swept a glance at the beautiful lie. He only likes Qiao Yuan, but he never even looked at her in the dream just now. Very often, every time he did, it was when he was talking to Yuan that she came. be
over
a
to him.
kind-hearted person.
Although he did
befriends Kia
know
Yuan,
much about
and
them.
honestly set
He
him
did
off.
know a little
Only
about
in
them
this way
from
can
Shin
she
Yingzi.
live
Know
a
a
good
little
life.
bits about them
Kia
from
Wanyan
Xiao
looked at.
Yuan.
The
Is
burning
not doing
flame
well
in
in
the
the
incense
Kia family
burner
Itzel.
reminds
Because
her
the
of her
Kia
final
family
ending
has a
in the
bossy
storybook.
daughter.
She was tortured
It's
and
not
killed by
uncommon
Xiao
for the
Yuan's
first
daughter to bully
admirer
the concubine's
dying
daughter,
in the
but
Permanent
Yi,
land.
because
One
is his
the
favorite
words
in the
Yuan's
storybook,
gentle and
were
kind.
are too
Hearted
terrifying.
woman was bullied
She
and
even
by.
dreamed of her future
Naturally,
in
her
her
younger sister.
Dream out her
Even
face
though
was flashed
he hates
and
those
bloody.
vulgar girls
His
too.
tendons and
Kia
ligaments
girls
were
are
cut
very
off,
beautiful,
and his tongue
but
was
he's
cut
not
off.
a
His
womanizer
eyes
who
gouged
craves
out.
beauty, inner
He
beauty
was tortured
is
to
the
death.
real
Kia
beauty.
Wanyan
But
nodded.
just now
Looked
he
at the
heard.
comic book
Shinning
in her
called
hand.
the Kia girls
But she
boxes
didn't when the comic
a servant
book in her
girl
hand
who disrespects
disappeared.
her master.
He
would
clearly
have
fell
been executed
asleep
in the
with it
Eastern
in his
Palace.
hand.
Ziwan,
Yu's expression
where is the
remained
comic
cold.
book in my hand?
Here to buy
Ziwan
hairpin
was
jewelry,
also a little
Kia
surprised.
Wanyan lowered her
Miss
eyes
was
slightly
holding
nodding
the book, her
when
head
she
in
fell
a soft
asleep.
gesture.
She
like
saw it,
snow,
like
like she
pure.
just woke up.
Yes.
How could
Just
it
a simple
disappear
word.
in the blink
No
of an
more
eye?
words. She
He
searched for a
whereupon
long
his
time,
brows, but
slightly.
couldn't find it.
Pretending
It
to be
just
delicate,
disappeared
I'm
out
afraid
of
he
thin
knows
air.
Yi.
At this
Huan's
moment,
soft nature.
a maid's
So
voice
he
came
learned
from
it on
outside
purpose.
the door.
He's
Madam
really
is
full of
calling
tricks.
you over.
Kia
Wanyan
Wanyan
paused
stood up
and said,
Ziyuan,
Your Highness,
you don't
my
think
daughter
to go
caught
with
a
me.
colding after you.
Stay and look
Days
for
ago,
the
picture
and
book
is still
carefully.
not completely
She only saw
recovered.
Kia Yuan.
I'm not
We're
feeling
coming
well.
the princess,
So I'll
but
leave
fell
first.
asleep
He
before.
was
Reading the
surprised.
rest of the pages.
The plain dress
After
was
dressing
different.
up,
Kia
From before,
Wanyan put on
sick
thick white
and weak
cloak
posture
and went
The
out.
original is
She was
infected
born
with
with a good
wind cold.
appearance. The
Her
sound
face
of footsteps sounded
like a
behind
peach
her.
blossom blooming
Heaving.
in spring.
You looked back
Her
at Kia
skin
Wanyan
is
as slender
smooth
and white
weak
as
back. White
his eyes
jade,
darkened
even without
Jing
makeup.
Yuan. Her
A
complexion
close guard
is
at
as
the
rosy
side
as the dawn
said,
snow.
Your
She is
Highness,
very
I think
attractive.
Miss Joe should
The
know that Your
servants
Highness
who clean.
is, even though
Here,
they see her
she
often
said
in the
that
house.
on purpose.
Can Miss
Miss
Joe,
Joe,
attracted by
second
her
is
appearance,
not a good
the
person.
lady with a
Because
face
it's like a
stopped her
goddess.
before.
The new
she
servants
scolded
did.
me for
The mansion
stopping
all
her.
thought that she
Easy
must
withdrew
be
his
gentle.
gaze.
Kind
He
and
came.
easy
How
Rigo
to
in
buy a
master.
jade bracelet
But
for Yi
after
Huan.
staying for a
Could
long
the Kia
time,
family know
they
in advance?
realized that she was the
What's
hardest
more,
to serve.
According
Keep
to his
your voice
impression
down.
of her,
Don't
after he
let
asked
anyone
her
hear.
if she was here to
Am
buy a
I
hairpin
wrong?
or
The
jewelry.
eldest young lady
She
would
also
have tried her
Amister.
best to
Why
act
are
like
all
those vulgar.
the
good things in the
saying
mansion
that this is
are
for
all
her
sent
elder
to Yang.
sister to
Ning Pavilion
gain
first.
an image of
the
sister
second young
Lai
lady
Love.
caught.
Hazy
a
Yu
cold
retrieved his
and
thoughts.
was served like
What
on
kind
store.
of person
My
the second
eldest
daughter of the
young
Kiao
lady has to
family
use
was
clothes to keep
It
warm.
has nothing
Stop
to do with him.
talking.
Coming
if it
out
weren't
of
for the
Aloe
treasure house,
this young lady
Kite
keeping
had
butterflies.
butterflies. She regretted
and
that
used
she
too much
didn't
charcoal.
throw more dirty
Miss
water
Arpel is
on.
enough. Xinying
Xiaoyan
and Missy
blast-redded
loss.
him.
What
do you
A
know?
loss.
Father is
Miss,
biased.
it's not easy
Both
to meet
are
the
crown
daughters.
prince,
But
Why?
he can treat them
Don't
equally.
you talk to the
Isn't
crown
it?
prince? Because
What a coincidence.
The second young lady
Miss
hasn't
been
been
out of the house
appearances.
for.
And
And
thinks she has a
And then
better
she saw his
chance
highness
to marry the prince.
Kia Wian
Don't
smiled,
you think about
but
the prince
didn't
likes
say a
our
word.
eldest.
It's not a
young lady.
coincidence.
The maid next to
She
her knew
still
the prince
wanted
would
to.
be here.
Persuaded.
So she left the
But
house
when
on
she
purpose.
saw the
person
book,
walking towards
Kia
the gate,
Yuan will go out
she
today.
immediately
She'll
knelt
meet
on the ground.
Crown Prince
at the
Xiaoyan
Aloe
also
treasure house.
turned
But
around.
now,
when she saw
that
the
she's
person
punished
coming
for kneeling Kiao,
her heart skipped a
Yi
beat.
Huan has no
But
one to
after a
accompany her.
moment,
So
he
she
stood
stood
there
not in the
firmly
mood to go
again.
out.
He
He
was
was
right.
right.
The fact
Strokes her temples
is like
and
this.
smiles with a
There's
cursed brow.
nothing to be guilty
She seems
of.
to be in a
The-
good mood.
the young
so
lady is
pretending to
kind,
be
hearted,
weak and harmless.
but he
is
couldn't be
so
her.
much fun.
The prince
Today,
does like his
the
young
crown
lady.
prince look at
Everyone
himself.
in
Is
the
not
capital
as
knows it.
disgusting
Wanyan
as in the
walked up
past.
to
He does
him.
look as
The dream Cybus was
disgusted as he
always
used
in
to
her
extrude
mind.
that men
Don't
are
they
all
afeared with the
bitches.
heroine?
They
Kia
only
Yuan.
like women who
and don't
Mrs.
embarrass
are
the
in
people
control
around
and
them.
harmless.
Heroine, that
Be a
servant
good
girl
person.
is really
Cleanse
unruly.
yourself.
It
and
would
repent.
save
Only
you a lot
in
of
this
trouble
way
can
if
you
you just
survive. sold her out.
A crisp
The
slap
corner
sounded.
of Kiao Ryan's mouth
looked
curled
at him
up
in
with
anise,
eyes as if
curved,
looking at garbage.
disposing of
Whitewash
a servant
them
girl's
is
vicious
just
supporting
ASAP
role.
of.
How
The
can you be
fingers.
whitewashed?
I'm keeping her
Shinnying
because
was
she
not convinced in her
great
heart,
use,
but she
type
didn't
being.
dare to refute
Well,
her
I'm
words.
not as smart
She
as Miss.
only
Miss
covered her face
is
in
always
indignation.
right in everything
Kiao
she
Banyan
does.
schoolboy
Kiao
spoke
Ryan
kneel down.
touched Etsy
Shinnying
Kitschy
refused to
feet.
kneel.
Miss
But the
servant
servant
girl
very much.
behind
You're
Kiao
so
Banyan
straight.
kicked her in the
Forward
leg
and quick,
shinnying,
witted,
could
I'll
only
ask
kneel
the
in
kitchen
front of her,
too.
even though
Make
she
you some
didn't talk
elbows,
to
Abigail's
Fox charming girl.
Just for
Is
you.
this how your lady
See,
taught
eyes
you to
light
diss?
up.
Respect
Miss
your
you
master
race so
behind her
nice.
back? But Miss
Shinny
compliments
gritted her
always
teeth.
feel that
She
there
had to accompany
is
Miss
something
out
wrong
of
with
the house
in the
Forget it.
Isn't this afternoon
Forget it.
delaying,
Whatever Miss
mistress?
does is right.
Xiao Yan
Miss
looked at
is
her
suddenly
out
nice
of the
to
corner
Missy,
of her
so
eyes.
it's fine.
You'll kneel
Just
here
as long
and go
as
back
Miss
after.
is happy.
Sunset
The winter
as for your
weather was
lady's
hard to
charcoal
bear.
fire. And after
Because of
spending
your words,
many days
you've
in the
lost
mansion,
next month.
Kiao Ryan's
Next month.
winded chill
S
was
will be gone
consigned
too.
red to be the
With those
worst.
words,
Kiao
she started
Banyan's
to
scold
leave.
has finally
Being
recovered.
Someone
Zeke
else
has been
flapping
very
dogs.
upset.
She's
These
been
past few
studying
days,
hard since
especially
she was
now that
a
she's
child.
in Yongning
She's
Pavilion
good at music,
with an invitation,
chess, painting,
she
poetry,
was even more
wine,
easy
flowers,
when
and tea.
She saw
Why
her
should she be
own young
reduced
lady.
to?
After
A green
hesitating
leaf,
for a
why
moment,
should she be reduced
she
to a
suddenly
green?
spoke up.
Leave
Miss.
beside someone
Why don't
who
go
is
to
not
your
as good as she
grandfather's?
is. How's
Because
in
she's
Yeongju to
not
avoid the
kind
storm?
enough.
Not
Kiao
stupid
Yan
enough,
was a booking
not
next to
good
reading.
enough to be held.
The smoked cage.
In the hearts of
when
those
she
men,
heard this,
what's wrong
she
with being
looked up at her
power-hungry
and held out
vain?
her hand.
It shows
Bring
that
it
she's
over.
motivated.
Zeke
Inside the
over.
Hall of Living
Miss
Clouds,
King Jing came back
Kiao
the day
Yan
before
entered the room
yesterday
and had
I'm
a
always
sister
panicking.
King
The cloak
Jing
off
is
her
now
body.
a powerful.
When Jen saw her come
warlord.
in,
He's coming
she
back to take
smiled
revenge
broadly.
on you.
Her
Now
eyes
the
full
crown
of
prince
love.
has invited
It was
you
as if
and
she
Miss
was looking
King
at
to
the
a
most
reception.
perfect piece
I'm
of
your
work.
reason.
She was
Inevitable that
satisfied
you'll
in her
run into
life,
King Jing.
loved and proud of it.
Wanyan thinks
Jin
it's funny.
Shield is
If
not
he's
good.
determined
Many
to
famous
take revenge
doctors
on me,
said
that she
if I
could
hide in Yangju,
never had another
he
child
won't be able to
over
find
the
me.
years.
She
Tight
only
frown.
had one
But
daughter.
I can die later,
but she
right?
never forced.
She hasn't slept
myself
on
to love
since
her daughter
she found out King.
because
Jing was
she
returning
didn't
to the
save a child.
capital, but
Instead,
she
was
calm.
joyed at the
She's
over.
been eating
the birth
and
of Kiao
drinking
Yan.
as if she's.
But now,
Find if she
Jin's
goes
face
to the
was filled
reception.
with worry.
I'm afraid
Yan
you.
Yan,
I'll be
your
the laughing
grandfather
stock of the
sent a
capital.
shipment.
Kiao,
A brocade.
Banyan
When
opened
you go
the
back
post
later
and took.
pick the color
A look
you
at
like.
it.
Kiao Yan from it. She was invited to go with. Kiao sat down on a chair by the charcoal fire. Mother and Mrs.
Did something happen?
Came inside,
Unsurprised that she could
inside
inside
from
from
her
her
to
pretend to be
pretend
sick
Father
and
heard
not
something
too.
after he
Went
left
to the
又上
reception.
新
This
套件
morning
了。
took a lot
7
of
月5号
persuasion
高
to
级
the
套件
capital,
上新哟，
convincing
有
them
家
to
人
go
们
back.
喜欢的衣
If
橱
she
和小
didn't
床，
go on her
还有
face,
可爱
how
洞
could
洞
the
板。
show begin?
7月5
She
号
had
在
been
高级
looking
展
forward
台哦
to
每
at
天
this
故事
reception
集
for
可
a
以购
long
买一张
time.
高级
On
设
the
计
day
卡
of the，
还可
reception,
以在设计
King
兑换
nearly
里面
killed
换家
himself
具
early
和
in the
床椅
morning.
和地板
I'm
呢
now
和
thinking
桃
right back
子
in
一
the
起
capital.
期待上
I'm
线吧。
afraid he'll
天
take
哪，
revenge
又
on
上
you.
新套
She
间了。
knows from
7
young
月
to
5
the
号
day
高
back
级套件上
yesterday.
新
It
哟
was，fine.
有家人们
King
喜欢的
Jing
衣
likes
橱
to
和小
stay
床，
in northern
还有可爱
darkness
洞
all
洞板。
this time.
7月5
Embroidered
号
now
在
that
高
he's
级
back
展
in the
台哟
capital.
每
Nice
天
being
故事集
so-vindictive.
可以
Time
购
was
买一
short.
张
Afraid
高
her
级设
daughter
计的，
perfunctory
还可以在设计
belief.
兑换
She
里面
shared
换
that
家
love
具、
breathed
墙
the
壁和地
minister
板
of
哟
the。
和
household
桃子
never
一
had
起
a
期
woman
待
with
上线吧。
salary, was not
天
in
哪，
darkness,
又上
but he
新套
had a
件了。
large family
7
to
月5
support
号
and
高
to
级
please
套件
him.
上新哟，
But
有
it
家
is
人
not
们喜
right
欢
to
的衣
allow
橱和
the
小
daughter
床，
to spend
还有可爱
money
洞洞
like
板。
that.
7月
Faded
5号
yellow
在
women's
高级
mother.
枕抽卡
Especially
哟，
family
每
is
天
a
的故
real
事
merchant.
集
There was a
可以购
woman
买
who
一
was
张
hated
高
the
级
most
设计
and
的，
really
还可以
needed.
在设计
At
兑换
10
里
times
面
young
换家
held
具、
her hands
墙
and
壁和
gently
地板哟，
stroked it.
和桃子
Her
一
voice
起
was
期待上
shallow.
线吧。
Make them.
Mother,
The
天哪，
shoes
又
wearing
上新
moonlight
套件
rose
了。
heart was
7月
high,
5号高
embroidered
级
with a
套件上
delicate
新哟，
pattern on
有
the
家人们喜欢的衣
neckline.
橱和
In
小
the
床，
book,
还有可爱洞洞板。
embroidered
7
with
月5号
gold
在高
thread
级枕抽卡
understated
哟，
inside
每
it.
天故
One
事
built
集
with
每
not
天
a
购买
white,
一张
like
高
her
级设计
self,
的，
who can
还
keep
可
her
以在设
family.
计兑换里
The
面
peony
换家
on the
具、
dress
墙壁
incapable
和
of
地板哟，
pretending to be a
和桃
good
子一
girl.
起期待
She
上
so
线吧。
bright, wanted
天哪，
everyone to
又
like
上
her,
新套件
wanted
了。
to make
Although
7月5
delicate
号高级
luster.
套件上
Her
新有
waist
的
type
有
is
家人们喜欢
straightforward.
的衣橱
She
和小
is
床，
very
还有
meticulous
可爱
in
洞洞
applying
版。
makeup
7月
to
5
open
号
up
在
a
高级
wide
图冲
channel
台
for
了
her.
每天
Young,
护肤市
admired,
集
and
可以购
honored
买
by
一
all.
张高级
A
设计
woman
图，
can
还可以在
hold
设
the
计
power
图
of
上
the
面换
world
家
set.
具，
The
无
corners
巧
of her
克力
lip
和地
control
板
the
油，
power.
核桃自己
Lightly
做
rolled
期
by
待上
her
线吧。
third roll.
天哪，
And you
又
know
上
what
新
you're
套
doing
间了。
for not
7月5 号
right.
高级
Mother,
套间上
pick
新
one
有
of
的
those
日本
ordinary
家人
man
们
and
喜
send
欢的
it
衣橱
to
和小
in a
床，
high rank
还有可爱洞洞版。
Jen didn't
7
want
月
to
5
make
号
it
在
for
高级
Miss
图
Joe.
抽
Good
卡哟，
material
每
is
天
not
4
up
入
from
10
the rare.
可以
Even
购买
to
一
the
张
door
高级
as
设
good
计卡，
as quiet
还可以在
material
设计
is.
兑
As
换
the
里
clear
面换
blue
家
sky
具，
today
无
is
敌
the
的地
new
板油
roommate is.
和
So
桃
why
子
send
一
it
起
to
期
her
待
and
上
could
线
end
吧。
Brian's
天哪，
vagina?
又
It
上
had
新
read
套
my
间
own
了。
old air when
7
they
月5
saw
号
their
高级
answer.
套件
Although
上
the
新有
lady has
有
been
家人
got
们喜
up,
欢的衣橱
and
和
her
小床，
appearance is
还有
the
可爱
world
洞洞
diamond.
版。
Don't miss
7
it.
5号在
Life
高级
never
旅出卡哟。
existed too.
每天姑姑试机，
describe her
还
all
购买
over
一张
Yawning
高级视
Pavilion.
角，
She
还
left
可以
the
在
house
设
and
计
find
兑
it.
换里
Kia
面
in
换家
one
具，
already
墙壁
picked
黑
out
白
Liana
哟。
finally
桃
left
子
the
离
house.
奇期待上
Our
线版。
luxurious
天
carriage.
呐
The，beauty
又上
and
新套
Zekai
间
was
了。
cursing
7月
and
5号
swearing.
高级
Glory
套
be
间
out
上线
out
了，
of the
有
car.
家人们
Her
喜欢
eyes
的
and
一出的
brows
小床，
look like
还有可爱
Disney
洞洞版。
Her
7月
wearing
5
flame
号
looked
在
like
高级这
sand
里出
with
卡
that
哟。
cool
每
any
天姑姑
coloring
市集
Eastern
可以
hat.
购买一张
She
高级
always
视
wore
角，
the most
还可以
igloo
在设
with
计
a
兑换
makeup
里
cloak
面
on
换
the
家具，
inside. The
墙
mother
壁
she
灰
did
白哟。
not.
和
Her
桃子
comfortable
一
to
起
her
期待上
best
线版。
today at home.
天呐，
She
晚上
is
新套
very
间了。
pretty and
7月5
delicate.
号高
For
级
no
套间
reason
上
at
线
all.
了，
In this
有
kind of
家人
plane
们
it's
喜欢的
timeless.
一
The
出的
most
小
can
床，
hear.
还有可
People
爱洞洞
fragile,
版。
unconscious
7月5
treasure
号
that
在
one
高级
too
这里
love
出
to
卡
take
哟，
care
每
for
天
the
姑姑
heart.
市集
Easy
可
you
以购买
approach
一张
and
高级
really
设计
see
榜，
from
还
Jane.
可以在
It's
设计兑
dire
换
and
里面
easy
换
to
家
approach
具，
softness
墙
in
壁
one
灰白
sphere.
哟。
From
阿豪
genuine
Treasure
Shandong
期待
and
上线
handed
版。
it to her.
天呐，
Yewan
又上
has
新
been
套
waiting
间
for a
了。
long
7月5
time.
号高级
Haven't
套间
you
上线
hair
哟，
when he
有
you
家人
once
们喜
saw
欢的
him
衣橱和
the
小
corner
床，
of
还
her
有
mother
可爱
curled
洞
up
洞版。
it. It's been
7
a
月
shy
5号在
smile
高级这
waiting
里
for
出
your
卡
Miss
哟，
Joe came
每
here.
天姑
No
姑市
matter
集
there
还
was
可以
I
购买
wait
一
new
张
batch
高
of
级设
hair
计榜，
jewelry
还可
you
以在设
had.
计兑换里
Would
面
you
换
like
家
to
具，
taste it
墙
that
壁
you
和
the
地
shop
板哟。
butterfly
和桃
all
子一
in
起
winter?
期待上
I
线版。
was so
天
butterfly
呐
to see the
又上
golden
新套
girl.
间了。
He could have
7月
squeezed
5
her
号
eyes
高
out
级套
though.
间
He
上线
all
了，
had them
有
sent
家
to
人们
the
喜欢的衣
shopkeeper
橱和
on
小
the
床，
second floor.
还有可爱洞
Looking
洞
at
版。
the jewelry
7月
the
5号在
shopkeeper
高级这
and
里出
swept
卡
like
哟，
a
每
treasure.
天姑姑
They're
市
all
集
good.
可以购买一
Wrapped
张
up
高
a
级设
silver
计榜，
hairpin
还
in
可
her
以在设
hair
计兑
of the
换里
and
面
opened
换
his
家具，
mouth
墙壁
tentatively
和地板
to
哟。
squeeze
和
one.
桃子一
Okay,
起
wait
期
at
待
a
上
good
线
age.
版。
Wrap this one
Why
separately.
not dress
So
so
plainly
simple
all
together?
day long.
7月
It's a
5号
pity
高
that
级
you're
套
in
间
your
上线
wrap
哟，
it up
有
nice
家人
and
们
I
喜欢
want.
的
I
衣橱
want
和
to
小
gift her
床，
elder
还有可
sister
爱洞
smile.
洞版。
I'm
7
used
月
to
5
be
号在
frugal.
高级这里
I
出
don't
卡哟，
appreciate our
每天
abundance
姑姑市
mundane
集
things.
可
I
以购
want
买
to
一
give her
张
the
高
best
级设计
body.
稿，
This
还可以
kind
在
of
设计
Shinny
兑换里
Muddered
面换
in
家具，
our voice.
墙壁
You
和
a
地板
funny
哟。
girl.
和
Really
桃子
kind-hearted.
一起期待上
Sorry
线
to
版。
see you leave the
It's
house.
because
Mother
又
has
上新套
deducted
间
your
了。
mother from the
7
coal
月5
allowance
号
and
高级
now
套间
you're
上线
giving
哟，
her.
有
Have
家
the
人们
money
喜
to
欢的
buy
衣橱和
clothes.
小床，
He
还有可爱洞洞版。
immediately looks
7
down
月
to the
5号
second
在
floor.
高级这
He
里出
don't
卡
have
哟，每
nonsense
天
in
姑
his
姑市
tracks
集
when
可以
he,
购买一
as
张
her
高
words
级设
left
计
her
稿，
mouth.
还可以
Shinny,
在
she
设计
is
兑
a
换里
thing
面
in a
换家具，
personal way.
墙壁和
You
地板
my
哟。
young
和
don't
桃子
believe
一起
her.
期
Grandfather
待
is
上
that
线
not
版。
true.
天呐，
I
又
just
上
don't
新
like
套间
dressing
了。
up like my
7月
second
5号
sister.
高级套
I
间上
don't
线
spend
哟，
much on the
有家
way
人
with her
们喜欢的
brocade.
衣橱和小
Not
床，
to.
还有可爱
Imagine
洞
the
洞
fact
版。
that it has
7月5
nothing
号
to
在
do
高级
with.
这
Should
里
be
出卡
elder
哟，
sisters for
每天姑
you.
姑市
I'll
集
have
可以
some
购
of
买
them.
一张
Choose
高级
some
设计
colors
稿，
that
还
kite
可以
gifted
在设
and
计兑
damn
换
them
里面
too.
换家
Wrong.
具，
With
墙
you
壁和
today,
地板哟。
if
和
someone
桃
had
子
dared
一
to
起
call
期
her
待
open
上线
and
版。
she was bitching in
天
the
呐，
past,
又上
clearly
新套
saying
间了。
she didn't
7
like
月
it
5
like
号高
long
级
ago.
套间上
Heard
线哟，
what he
有
said.
家人们
She
喜欢
still
的衣橱
showed
和
that
小
she
床，
was touched
还有
and
可爱洞
you
洞
made
版。
it. People
7月
feel
5号
even
在
for
高
a
级这里
rocker.
出
This
卡哟，
kind of
每天姑
compassionate
姑市集
reactor
可以
in
购
this
买一
kind
张
of
高级
genuine
设计
all
稿，
cannot
还可以
help
在
but
设
pull
计兑
one
换里
word
面
too.
换家具，
Buy more
墙
good
壁
things
和
to
地
get
板哟。
furious.
和桃
Really,
子
Miss
一
a
起期
servant
待上
does
线
any
版。
good thing.
天呐，
It's
又
poor
上新
thing
套
not
间了。
Highness.
7月5
If
号
not
高级课件上
necessary
新
so
哟，
much,
我家人们
rotate
喜
it.
欢的衣橱
It's
小
good.
床，
I've
还有
seen
可爱
never
动
seen
作
it
板。
before.
7月5号
Play
在
along
高级
with
店
it.
抽卡
How
哟，
can
有选
I?
天姑姑
I'm
手
ready
机
to wear
可以
such
购买一
fine
张高
material
级
that
的。
he she does and run over you next time. You're right. I've never seen brocade. That day, Rare State of Winion said that today, I know you're doing this for me, but she really lied to herself. That sister, scheming woman, that not to mention the best in the world. Wait for me. It would be good for convince my father and sister to have a good home in the future. The crown princess Zikai was so anxious that she wanted and she lowered her head. Your Pavilion right now, she wanted to rush even if you don't become the crown princess and shoving just a concubine back. I'm willing into to her mother's swamp. Eldest sister, so you're here. Said in you made me look for you. Ivy, a pleasant female voice sounded. It is good for my eldest sister to get married to the man of her dreams. In the future, the elegant, I will never marry and stay with my father. She had seen Affy days ago. She was dressed like before. No, today she was dressed like a flower. A nightmare within a nightmare. Xiao Ying frowned after paying the money. Here we go again. Just walked to the stairway unplanned, but she always comes over to disturb when she saw. Although Xiao walking up the stairs, displeased in her heart. She was shocked. She didn't say anything more. Her eyes showed shock and said, "Might." Second, and when she saw him approaching, I should have come with you. She subconscious line took too. crown prince sent someone to fetch me
while she
so
bowed.
I went ahead.
My daughter greets your highness.
Her eyebrows.
The crown prince.
Heezy
bowed
dressed
before,
in audio white robe,
so
he
that
has
shows
a
it is
handsome
I
face
told you
and an
I couldn't
elegant
find my
demeanor.
sister anywhere.
His hair was
She
tied up like
raised
black
her
jade
eyebrows
and
at the
reflected
end of her
in his
sentence
deep pupils.
why
The deep
isn't
pupils
Tyre's
of
sister wearing
Kiao
the
Wenyan reflected
brocade
the
my mother
admiration
gave you
and love.
I especially
that
chose
she
the color of
desperately
that
tried to
brocade.
suppress after
I
the
thought
shocked.
it would look great on you
Heezy
today.
swept a glance
I
at
didn't
the
bring the
beautiful
walking
lie.
stick
Wrapped with
Redwood
box in
but
her
you
hand.
don't like
He
it?
hadn't seen them.
Kiao
family
showed
showed
her
her
disappointment.
Very
Seems
often.
that all her
Every time
sincerity
he
has
did.
been misplaced.
It was when he was
Kiao
talking
Yuan
to
was
Yuan
Abbott
that she
surprised
came
by her
over to
intimacy.
him. But
Although
more than
he
that,
did,
she was
he
flustered.
know much
she
about them.
subconsciously glanced
He did
at the
know
crown
a
prince.
little about them
She saw
from
that
Xin
his
Yingxi.
face was light
Know
and
a little
emotionless,
bit about them
but
from Xia
she
and
still
Yuan.
couldn't calm down.
Is not doing well
it
in
was
the
Shiny
Kiao
who
family
spoke
itself
up
and said,
because the Kiao
Mrs.
family has a
Girl's
bossy
fault?
second.
Madam,
daughter
did send
it's
someone
not
to deliver
uncommon
the
for the
brocade.
first.
But
Daughter
I put
did
it in the
bully the
cupboard and
concubine's
forgot about
daughter.
it. But
I
put it in
is
the
his
cupboard
favorite.
and
He
forgot
was
about
gentle
it.
and
But
kind.
it's a bit
Hearted
old-fashioned
woman was
and
bullied
doesn't
at
suit
by.
your.
Naturally,
today,
her younger
I
sister.
put it away.
Even though
Heezy, you
he
narrowed
hates those
it at
vulgar
her.
girls too.
Eyes and glanced
Kiao
at girls
Kiao
are
Yuan.
very beautiful.
The maid
But
servant
he's
beside
not a
Yuan,
womanizer
Abbott
who
unruly.
craves beauty in her
She
beauty
is
the
always defending
real
her
beauty.
master.
But just now,
he heard.
That's not wrong.
Xinin called the
But
Kiao
if
girls
she's
foxes.
lying,
A
she's
servant
not
girl who
trustworthy.
disrespects her
Kiao
master
Yuan was
would
afraid
have been
that the
executed
prince
in
would
the
be
Eastern
suspicious
Palace
if she
Heezy
changed
Yu's expression
her personality
remained cold.
in the past
Here
few
to buy
years.
hairpin
I've
jewelry.
never met him
Kiao
alone.
Wenyan lowered her
Every
eyes
time,
slightly,
Kiao
nodding.
Yuan was
Her
there,
head in a
and when he
soft
came
gesture,
over,
like the prince would
like
excuse
pure.
himself
Yes.
and leave.
Just a
not
simple
wanting
word.
to spend time with
no
him.
more words.
It seems
Heezy,
he's
whereupon his
afraid
brows
that Kiao
slightly
Yuan will be
pretending to
upset
be
the
delicate.
prince.
I'm afraid
Doesn't
he
know
knows himself
Yi.
that.
Well,
off
even
nature.
if he knows
so
a little,
he learned it on
it's
purpose
only from other people's
He's surely
mouths.
full
But
of
how
tricks.
can
Kiao
such
Wenyan
knowledge be
paused
better
and
than
said,
seeing for
Your
oneself?
Highness, my
Heezy
daughter
Yu
caught
said
a colding
Yuan
at you.
that day.
Days ago,
Your sister went
and
to
is
Aloe
still
Treasure
not
House
completely
to buy a
recovered.
hairpin,
I'm
and
not
I was
feeling
there.
well.
The pendant
So I'll
she
leave first.
chosen for
Heezy
you
Yu was
is
in
Abbott
too
surprised.
old. The
Fashion.
plain dress
It
was perfect
for you.
From before,
Kiao Yuan
sick
stiffened
and weak
and looked at
posture.
him in dismay.
The original is
Kiao
infected
Ryan
with
took her
wind
arm.
cold.
Yes,
the
sister.
sound of footsteps
That is the most
sounded
beautiful
behind her.
hairpin and
Heezy,
jewelry I
you looked back
chose
at
that
Kiao
day.
Wenyan.
It is
A
the most
slender
beautiful
and
hairpin
weak back.
and jewelry
His
he chose
eyes
that
darkened.
day.
You're
Jing
too
Yuan,
plain
a close
Your
guard at the
everyday
side,
life said
you have to dress
Your
up
Highness,
so that
your
your
brother
brother should
in the
know
future,
that your Highness
the law will
is
be more
here.
impressed. She
The
said
curve
that
of
on
Kiao
purpose.
Ryan Smith was
Miss
just
Joe,
right.
second is
It
not a
as
good
like
person.
the warm spring
because
sun
it stopped her
dispersing
before.
all the
She
glue
scolded me
in
for
the world,
stopping
it's
her.
unbelievable.
Heezy
I
withdrew
withdrew
his gaze.
and beautiful
He
with
came.
this kind of
How
posture.
to buy a jade
How
bracelet
could there
for
be
Yuan?
any trace of
Could
evil
the Kiao
in me
family
and
know in advance?
It's clearly the
What's
purest
more,
camellia flower.
according to his
Innocent
impression of
and
her,
romantic.
after he asked
Kiao Yuan's
her if she
cheeks
was here to
instantly
buy a
rolled.
hairpin or
What
jewelry,
brother-in-law?
she,
would
sister,
have
tried
don't
her
talk
best
nonsense
to act like those vulgars.
Xinin glared at
saying
her
that
fiercely.
this is for her elder
Yesterday
sister.
she was so
to
high and
gain
mighty
an
that
image of
she
sister
slapped herself
herself
in the face.
Heezy Yu retrieved
Today
his
she is
thoughts.
acting.
What kind
Like
of
a
person
good
the
sister
second
isn't
daughter
it
of the
just to
Kiao
gain a good
family was?
impression in
It
front
has
of the
nothing
crown
to
prince?
do with him.
Heezy Yu
Coming
swept
out
a
of
glance
Aloe
at Zhao
Treasure
Yang
House,
as hidden
Zeke
dislike
had
without
some regrets.
moving.
She regretted
He drew
that
his
she
gaze with you.
didn't throw more
Sisters,
dirty
take your
water
time
on.
to chat.
I'm going to
and
Jiao
Missy.
Hua Hall.
It's a lot.
Several people
It's
vote.
a lot.
Heezy Yu did not
Miss,
leave
it's
through
not
one
easy to
after
meet the
another.
crown prince.
Instead of
Why?
the moon gate,
Don't
when he
he
turned
talk
to the
to the
corner,
crown prince?
he stayed
What
behind
a
a hidden
coincidence.
rockery.
Miss
It
hasn't
hasn't
been
been
out of the
by
house for
a thick
half
canopy
famine.
of dead branches.
And then she saw
from
his
the
highness.
outside.
You
Kiao
can see
Yuan
two people
smiled,
standing
but
here.
didn't say a word.
Instead,
It's
from
not
behind
a
the mountain,
coincidence.
I could clearly
She
see
knew
that.
the prince
Movement
would be
at
here.
the bamboo
So
pool.
she left
Your
the house
Highness,
on purpose.
Are we going
in
to
the
Jiao
book?
Hua Hall?
Kiao Yuan will
Jing
go
should
out
be
today.
there by now.
She'll meet the
Heezy Yu
crown
sighs.
prince at
the aloe treasure
on the
house.
bamboo pool.
But now,
Yihuan is
that
a soft
she's punished
and
for
kind
kneeling
person.
Kiao. She
Yihuan
doesn't
has
want
no one
punish
to accompany
those
her.
shinnying
So
around
she's
her.
not in the mood to go out.
It's true that
Kiao Yihuan,
as her servant
strokes
girl
her temples and
was
smiles with a
unruly.
curved brow.
But is it true
She
that
seems
the
to be
Kiao
in a good
families,
mood,
so
two
pretending
daughters
to
are
be
sisters
weak
to
and
Yihuan?
harmless is
I'm not
so
sure.
much fun.
Is Kiao
today?
Yihuan,
The crown
pretending
prince
to be
looked at
friends with
himself
Yihuan
is not
or
as
are they really
disgusting
sisters?
as in the past.
We'll find
He
out
does
here.
look as
There's no
disgusted
outsiders
as
here.
he used to.
No
It's true
one would
that
put on
men
a
are
false
all
face.
Although we can't,
they only like
hear
women
the
who
conversation,
missing
but
are
it's
in
easy
control
to tell
and
by
harmless.
their appearance
That servant
and
girl
behavior
is really
the
unruly.
Kite whispered.
It would
a few
save
words in
you a lot
Wenyan's
of
ear
trouble if you
she
just
walked
sold
to
her
Kiao.
out.
The
Yi
corner
Huan's
of
face
Kiao
with
Ryan's
smiles on her
mouth
cheeks
curled up in
She
Anna's
held a key
curve,
Yi Huan's hand.
disposing of a
Kiao
servant
Yuan
girl
looked at her
just
with
such
such
intimacy.
Kiao.
The fingers.
Yi Huan
I'm
was
keeping
avid
her
surprised
because she,
to see
as
her
a
being
great
so
youth,
intimate,
kite
if even with a hint of
I'm not
Korean
as smart
favor
as
with
this.
herself.
Miss
Banyan was
is
really
always
willing
right
to
in
be her
everything
friend.
she
She
does.
is.
Kiao
Also
Ryan
willing
touched
to get
Edzi
along with her
Kitchik
regardless
Kite.
of
Miss
her past
Illiku
and mighty,
very much.
but only
You're
if she
so
doesn't
straight
to steal.
forward and
Sister
quick.
from her crown
Witted.
prince.
I'll ask
Clearly
the kitchen
knows
too.
about that shoe
Make
gin.
you some elbows.
Why did you lie?
Abigailbo.
Kiao Yuan
Just for
knit tight
you.
her brows slightly
Kite's
as
eyes
she
light up.
smiled and
Miss, you
questioned
raised
herself
so nice.
inexplicably.
But Miss compliments
sending
always
chills
feel
down
that
her
there
back.
is something
Sister
wrong
Miss
with them.
stood under.
Forget it.
I really
Forget
don't
it
know about
whatever
that
Miss
shoe
does
brocade.
is right.
Kiao
Miss
Ryan
is
gently
gently
nice to
twice,
Missy,
so it's
the
fine.
smile still
Just
at the
as
corner
long
of
as
her
Miss
mouth
is happy.
lifted up
The
sweet
winter
and
weather was
touching
hard
tea
to
powder.
bear.
Lawyer
And after
Kiao
spending
spending
many days in the
easy
mansion,
her tone of
Kiao
the
Ryan's
voice
winded
made her
chill
feel
was
ashamed of
considered
her.
red to be
I
the
couldn't tell.
worst, but
Kiao
want to follow
Banyan's
her
scold
wishes
has
and
finally
coax her.
recovered.
If His
His
Highness
Highness
saw
has been
her like
very
this,
upset
would
these
he
past few
really
days,
dislike her?
especially
Kiao
now
Wenyan
that she
smiled
smiled
with
with
a
young
slight
pavilion
tilted
of her head.
with an invitation.
Her voice was soft.
She was even
and
more
sweet.
an easy
Sister,
when
I
she
am
saw
not
her
a good
own young
person.
lady.
And
After
you may not be
hesitating
a
for a
good
moment,
person
she
either.
suddenly
If you
spoke
are
up,
a
Miss.
human being,
Why don't go to
you
your
will have a
grandfather's?
selfish side.
How's in
Zhao
young
Yu
you to avoid
violently
the storm?
pushed her
Kiao
away and
Yan
angry
was
lie.
looking next to
Looked
reading
at her
the
defensively.
smoked cage.
Second,
When
Miss,
she
don't
heard
go
this,
too far.
she looked
My
up
young
at her
lady
and
has
held
a
out
good
her
heart.
hand.
And
Bring
is
it
not the
over.
same as
The
you.
Kite brought it
Kiao
over.
Yan was not
Miss
as
King Jing
furious
came
as
back
they
the
thought
day
she
before
was.
yesterday.
Would be. I'm
She
always
just
covered her
panicking.
chest
King
and
Jing
looked at
is now a
shinning
powerful
them with a sharp
warlord
and hurt
He's
expression.
coming back to take
All
revenge
these
on
years,
you.
You've been
now the
protecting
crown prince
your
has invited
sister
you
with this
and
kind
Miss
of
King
you've been
to a
protecting
reception.
your sister
I'm sure
with
it's
this
a
kind of
vitable that you'll
wishness
run
for
into
so
King
many
Jing.
years, right?
Kiao
But
Wenyan
having
thinks
to
it's
forgotten
funny.
that
If he's
my mother
determined
has your
to
contract,
take revenge on
I
me,
can sell you
if I
hide
want
in
to.
Yangju.
At that
He
time,
won't be able to
you'll
find
have
me.
no one to
Z
protect
Kite
you.
frowned,
But
shinnying.
I can die later,
Clenched
right?
her hands into
she hasn't
fists
slept
and
on
stared at
since
her
she found out
with a
King
deadly
Jing was
GLR.
returning to the
She
capital,
stared,
but
at
she's
her with
so
a deadly
calm.
GLR.
She's been
her
eating
breaths are
and
coming
drinking
uneven
as if
in the
she's
story.
fine
Even
if she
though
goes to the
Shinning
reception.
and Kiao
I'm
Yuan
afraid to.
are the same.
I'll be the laughing
But
stock of the
Shinning
capital.
acted like
Kiao
Kiao Yuan's mother.
Banyan opened
She
the
took care
post
of Kiao
and took
Yuan as
a
if
look
she
at
was
it.
her mother.
Sure
How could she tolerate
she
her
was
own?
invited to go
Threats
with
if she was
Kiao
so loyal?
Yuan.
Kiao
At that
Yuan
moment,
slowly added
Minister
fuel to the
Kiao
fire.
and
Sister
Mrs.
wants to marry
Jin
the crown
came
prince,
in,
but he also
unsurprising.
want
They
to be
were
the crown
asking her
princess
to pretend
I,
to be sick
kill
and
anyone
not
who
to.
gets in my
Went
way.
to the reception.
You wicked woman.
It took a
Zhao
lot of
Ying
persuasion
was furious.
too.
Her
Convincing
anger
them to
rising
go
up
back
from the bottom.
If she
up.
didn't go,
Her heart, her
how
mind
could
was
the show
Bootsy
begin?
Ang on
She had
impulse.
been looking
She
forward
pushed
to
Kiao
this
Yuan,
reception for
who
a
was
long
standing
time.
at the edge of the
On the day
bamboo
of the
pool.
reception banquet,
Downwards off,
Z Kite was
Kiao
early
Ryan
in the
cried
morning
out in shock,
I was holding
but her
a
hands
fresh
steady,
limeade
dilly
brocade
and
dress.
accurately
The
grabbed
brocade
Shinning
was
Shan.
sent
And
from
both of them
Yangju the
fell
day
into the
before
lake
yesterday.
Kiao Yuan didn't
Yan likes
expect
things
color
to
so
suddenly.
much, so she
Standing
asked
at the edge of the lake
embroidered her
turned
to
out
work
like
on
this.
it all.
Her
Night
heart raced
long.
Shinning,
Although time was short.
Shinning was
It
flailing
was
around in the middle of
Kiao
the
Banyan's
lake
father
Kiao
was
Yuan milked
the
by the
minister
shore
of the
and
household.
reached out. His
But
monthly
fortunate to
salary
pull
was
her
not
out.
low,
Shinning
but he
wasn't
hadn't
a large
far from
family
the
to
shore,
support and
so she
socialize.
pulled her over with
it's
all
not
her,
right to
but
allow a
strength
daughter
on the
to
surface
spend
of the lake.
money like that.
Kiao Banyan's
But
figure
Kiao
was
Wenyan's
long
mother.
gone. Z.
Jin's family
Kite
is
blankly
royal
glanced
merchant.
at Kiao
Money was
Yuan.
the last
and
thing they needed.
immediately shooed
At
10
10
out as
times
well
the
as
price.
bad.
Naturally,
My young lady
countless
has been
embroiderers
pushed
would
into the
rush
water.
too.
Come
Make
quickly.
them
The
the lid waters
colored
in the middle of
brocade
winter
was
embroidered with a
bony,
delicate
cold pattern on the
shinnying
neckline
soaked
the
to
skirt
the bone.
has a peony
Shined
outline
red and hugged
embroidered
herself
with
tightly.
gold thread.
She was
The
so
inside is
scared that she
filled
almost
with ginger
drowned.
white.
She was
Also,
stuffing
afraid that she had
sunlight.
pushed Miss
The
Second
peonies
into
on the
the
dress
water
seemed to
on
come to
impulse.
life.
If Second
It
Miss
was
died like
so
that,
bright and
Madam
glittering
and
that it
Master
gave
will
off a
definite,
although
delicate
implicated
luster.
Missy.
Z
But
Kite is
if
straightforward.
Miss died like that,
She is
no
very
one would bully
meticulous
Missy.
in applying
Shinnying
makeup.
was so
delicate
conflicted
makeup
that
was
she
painted
anymore
on Kiao
looked at the
face
lake with trembling
a flower
nerves,
inlaid on her
silently
forehead,
hoping
is
that
like
no
the
one would come
finishing
up,
touch.
but she,
The corners
also
of her
hopped
lips
are
that she
as
would make it to the
lightly
surface.
raised the
A
kite's
live
throat
Kiao
rolled,
Yihuan
and
knelt
she began
on the
to
ground
hate herself
and hugged
for not being
shinnying,
honest.
but
No,
she felt
an
ashamed.
ordinary man
Closing
won't
in
do
on
only
her
Amen of
when
high
she
rank,
looked up.
and
She
power
realized
would be good
it
enough
was
for
the
Miss Joe.
Crown Prince,
Kiao
Your
Ryan
Highness,
got up from the
Kizi
mirror,
looked at the
walked
surface
to the
of the
door,
lake
and
as
stood
if
there
it
quietly
were a
looking
mirror without
at the
a
clear
single
blue sky
ripples.
today.
His
His
deep
subordinate
eyes narrowed at
Young
Ed's
Pavilion
lightly,
could and fell.
Kiao
But
Yihuan
Sakina,
said anxiously,
breath of cold
Your
air
Highness,
when they saw this.
quickly let
Although
Jing
the
Yuan
lady
go
has
save
a bad
Banyan.
temper,
Banyan
but her
is
appearance
still in the
is a
water.
scorching diamond.
Jing Yuan
Heaven,
looked towards his
live
own master,
beauty is difficult
seemingly
too.
waiting for an order
Describe
clock.
her half of
He
the beauty.
took off his
when
fox
she
skin,
left the palace.
cloak and left
Kiao
out in Your
Yuan was
Highness.
already picked
Kiao
up by
Yuan
picked up
frozen
by
place.
the East Palace
Unable to believe the
luxurious
scene,
carriage.
she saw Z Kite's
And Z
face
Kite was cursing
so
and
angry
swearing
that she
Kiao Yuan
wanted to cry.
Didn't they
But
much of a
in
reaction?
her heart,
Kiao
she could
Yuan
agree
was
if she wanted.
wearing a plain
This bunch
face
of
by the
fools
bamboo
to laugh.
pool in the
Their young lady
Eastern
knows
Palace.
how to use
She
water.
was wearing a dress
At that time,
with the
she was
blue,
still learning
white
from
cloak on the
her
outside,
cousin,
although
in
she is
Yeongju.
not.
Kiao
But
Yuan
comparable to
held
her
her
breath
breath
before
before
entering
entering
the
the
water.
She's still
It
very
was
pretty
easy
for her
and
to
delicate
climb up to the
especially.
shore.
But
in
she
this kind
didn't.
of plain
She let
attire,
herself
the most
sink to the
make.
bottom.
People
Of the
rise
lake,
up unconscious
looking at the
lie.
lake's surface.
To love
The
and
sun's
care for the
reflection
heart
was incredibly
Hiziyu approached
beautiful.
and took the,
The
soup
moment
from
she
Jing.
entered the water,
Yuan
it
and
was
Hiziyu
bony,
approached
chilling lie
and
cold.
took the soup.
But after
From
she was
Jinyuan
completely
Shandong
submerged
and handed it to
she
her.
didn't feel that
Yuan,
cold
you've been waiting
anymore.
for a long
The gentle
time.
waters surrounded
Haven't you?
her.
When
and
Kiao
her long
Yuan
hair
saw
and
him,
long skirt
the
glowed
corner of
in
her
all
mouth curled
directions.
up in
A
a
shy
shy
smile
smile
to be won
waiting
with the
for Your
water.
Highness.
He,
No matter
Z
how
jumped
long
into the
I
lake
wait,
and saw
I
the
am
most
happy.
beautiful
Your
scenery.
Highness.
Kiao
You said
Yuan
last time
squinted
that
her
you could see
eyes and
butterflies
reached out her hand
in
to
winter.
grab the straw.
I found
that
some butterflies
saved her
and
life.
kept.
In the
Them
next
at
second,
home, if Your
the
Highness
bubbles
likes
that
them.
came out of her
I'll
mouth
have them
rose
sent
up
to
in
you
a
some
chained her
other time.
magnificent peach
Okay.
blossom eyes
He
closed.
nodded
and fell
slightly
towards the
and
bottom of
swept
the
his
lake.
eyes over her
Easy
clothes.
use. He
Heart
also
tightened,
looked
and he
at the
quickly
silver
dug
hairpin
in her
towards
hair
the bottom of the
and
lake.
opened his mouth
Kiao
tentatively.
Banyan has taken
Yi
care
Huan.
of herself
You
for
Ray
many
at a good age.
years.
Why
With her
do you dress
slender
so
body
plainly all
and
day
the
long?
lightness of
It's a pity
the
that
water
you're in your
when
prime.
Hiziyu held her
Kiao
wrist.
Yihuan,
Eiffel cheek,
pursed her
was
lips
as weak
and
as a feather.
smiled.
The smile
I'm used
on
to
her,
be frugal.
facing at the
I don't
riverside,
appreciate
are
just
about those
now
mundane
Kiao
things
Yuan,
outside mine.
who had gradually
Body,
turned
the
into a
sight of
helpless
shinnying,
and
muttered
puzzled
in
woman.
aloe voice.
Now she fainted
Miss is
and
no
really
longer
kind-hearted.
Any
Obviously.
expression of emotion,
It's because Madam
Hiziyu
has
pulled
deducted
her
your monthly
close to him
allowance
with one
and
strong
we
pull.
don't.
He
Have
let
the
go
money
of
to
her
buy clothes,
wrist, and grabbed
Kiao
her by the
Yihuan
waist.
immediately
towards
looked
back
back
and
and
surface
shouted,
of the water
"Don't
to
talk
swim.
nonsense
Hiziyu
in
has
front
always
of His Highness."
Then
As the
Averson
words
as left her
and
mouth,
sulfur contained
she
at the
explained in
first
a warm
frost in
voice.
snow.
Your
But
Highness
at the
don't
moment,
believe her.
he was holding
It's
Kiao
not
Yuan,
true.
who
I
had
just don't
already
like dressing
fainted.
up like my
There
second sister.
is only
I
one
don't spend
thought
much
in
on
his
these
mind.
things. The waist
Hiziyu
is so thin.
looked
Women's
sympathetic.
waist.
I
Are
think
they
the shoe
also
brocade
thin?
should be
Both
a
of
good
them
match for
floated
you.
to the surface
I'll
of the
have
lake.
someone
Z
choose
wine
some
seed
colors
less
that
on the
suit you
shoreline
and
give them
Kiao
too.
Yihuan.
You
Watch
watched the
Kiao
two come
Yihuan's
up and
possess.
also walk
lightly
to the
opened,
edge
and
of the
she was
lake, Your
surprised.
Highness,
Are
clearly
you
saying
all right,
she didn't
Jinyuan,
like
as
it.
a man?
But when
Although
she
in his
heard
heart
what he
he
said,
doesn't like
she
second
still
miss.
showed that she was
But
second
second
ed
miss
it
Kiao
makes
was
people
definitely
feel
wet
even
after.
more.
Coming
this
up
kind of
as
compassionate
Amen and a
reaction
Prince Guard
is behind
he could
a
not
genuine
look at her.
all cannot
He turned
help
his back
but
to
want
the
to
lake and looked
buy
around
more
without
good things
moving.
to give her.
Easy
really?
you.
Did
Sent
Kiao
Kiao
Ryan
any
to the
good
surface
things?
of the lake?
Poor thing.
And then
Your
went to the
Highness,
shore.
it's not
He
necessary. She
Huan
felt
pain
pain in her heart.
So good.
The lake was
I've
so
never
cold.
seen it before.
I'm afraid His Highness
let alone
would
warn it.
catch
How
a cold
can I?
if he goes
Be
into
worthy
the
to
water
wear
like
such a
this.
fine material?
Banyan will be
He
sick
she
again
his eyes are
when
as
she
dark
gets
as
over
the
the
abyss.
Cold
Year
Qiao
one
has
has
never
handed
seen
the cloak
brocade
to Heezy
that day.
Your
Qiao
Highness
Wenyan said that
put it
Ninan,
on.
you're
had
a
given
noble
you
man.
one.
If you catch a cold, she really lied to herself. If you catch a cold from this scheming woman, it's really the sin of my family. Best in the world. You took the cloak for me, but did not put it on my father and mother to marry you. As he squatted down and put it over Qiao Wuyan's body. Cheeks there was still a layer of snow on the ground. Your Highness, so He believes in you. He even if you don't become the crown princess in the cloak, but just a concubine, he clearly lied to do it and helped her expel the lake. So you're water here. That she had drunk. You made me look for you. In pain. A pleasant female voice slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes walked lightly towards this direction. She looked around. Unlike the elegant and looked at her. Shock. Pure woman she had seen a few days ago. She was still alive. She was dressed like before. In today she was dressed like a flower and cried. Just like before, Zhao Yi frowned, whereupon her brows slightly. Here we go again. A trace of unknown emotions talking to His Highness in the depths, but she always comes over to disturb her. Is worried about her own master. Qiao Yuan but in her heart, she is wailing. She didn't say anything more. She smiled and said, "He's a use, but it's abbot stiff. I should have come with you. Temperature is too cold. Crown Prince because Qiao Ryan is buried in his chest. So I went ahead, crying pitiful lie and arched her eyebrows. He wasn't. He's surprised that animal woman would cry so that shows it is. Encountered this kind of thing. I couldn't find my sister anywhere. Pitiful lie in his eyebrows at the end of her sentence in his life. His entire sister wearing meant to feel sorry for her. My mother gave me. I especially chose the color of that brocade. Although I thought it would look great on you today. But I didn't bring the walking stick Qiao Yan was, but you don't pretend like it? In front of him, both in front of disappointment and not in front of all her sincerity attitude and expression towards her. Qiao Yuan was were the same on the other hand. But more than that, at Qiao Yuan and saw Med to be subconsciously glanced at the crown prince. She saw that his face was white and emotionless, pushed her into the water. She still couldn't calm down it. It was Shiny who spoke up. She told him about Bu Yao, Mrs. Slave Girl Xu Jin. Madam, Shinying was furious when her to deliver the brocade. Exposed, but I put it in the cupboard and forgot about it. With Yi Huai. Put it in the cupboard and later forgot about it. Her voice it's a bit old-fashioned, coarse from crying. Suit your dress today. I put it away. To looking for Shiny. You narrowed when she saw her. She stretched out her white jade fingers, and the maid pointed at her. Yuan, her tone was the unruly guy. She. Savage of defending her master. Young lady. If you dare to push me into the water, but if she's going to tell my mother, she's not trusted worthy. Such a domineering tone made sense to His that the prince his initial impression of Qiao Wuyan was that her personality was in the past few years, and I never met him alone. Every may not be the evil person. Yuan was there, and when he came over, the prince would have a little temper, and leave. Not wanting to spend time with by her subordinates. He's instantly afraid that natural that she would say something upset the prince like that. Doesn't know himself immediately said, even if he knows a little. It's all my fault. From other people's mouths. It's my fault for letting you. How can suffering if you want to blame better than blame me for oneself has been with me? You said since she was a child. Your sister went to Aloe Treasure. I really don't know how to live. Hairpin and I was there, and her words were incoherent. Chosen for you isn't too old. I don't want to. If she dares to push me into the water today, I don't know what will happen to her tomorrow. Qiao Ryan took her looked at her angsty sister. That is the most beautiful hairpin and jewelry I chose that day. Don't keep such an beautiful hairpin with you. And jewelry today, chose that day. I'll find the reliable person to serve you your everyday life of her. You have to dress up so that your brother, she in the future, fell to her knees with a thud your more impressed. Shinying and Qiao Ryan Smith were like just right. I really can stand by the warm spring sun dispersing all the glue. Then said, in the world, sister, if you don't want to be angry, I'll jump into the water right now. Kind of posture. How about this? How could there be any trace of evil and meanness? She was going to jump into clearly the purest camellia flower, illy happy and romantic. To jump, Qiao Yuan's to death instantly rolled. Good. However, brother-in-law, Kiziu let go of Qiao Wuyan. Don't talk nonsense. He stopped her from shinnying glared into the water fiercely. With 3 yesterday she was so high and his eyes were filled with pain, slapped herself in the face. Today she cursed in her heart. She, like a good sister,
over
and hugged her own young lady
tightly.
Impression
she
in
wanted
front of
to
the
give
crown
her
prince.
some warmth.
He swept a glance at Zhao Ying.
Ryan
as
cried,
hidden dislike
"Sister,
without moving.
why are you forcing
he drew
me to
his
do
gaze
this?
with you. It's
Sisters,
obvious
take
that
your
I'm
time
the
to
one who's
chat.
been wrong.
I'm going to Jiao
Why do you
Hall.
act like I don't
Several
give
people
Adam?
bowed.
Her
eyes
did not leave
burned.
through one
And
after
Qiao
another.
Yuan felt
Instead of the
guilty
moon gate,
and
when he
didn't
turned the
dare
corner,
to look directly
he
at
stayed
her
behind a hidden
for a
mockery.
moment.
She discovered what to do.
At
His
this
canopy
narrowed
of dead
at
branches
her eyes.
From the outside,
Miss Zhou had
you can
indeed
see
been
two people
wrong
standing here.
A servant girl.
Instead,
Who
from
disrespects
behind
her
the mountain,
master
I could
must be
clearly
punished.
see that.
I'm
movement
here to
at the
help you.
bamboo pool.
How's
You're
Your
going
Highness,
to be for you.
Are we going to Jiao Hall?
He says
King
he's here
Jing
for
should
Qiao
be there by
Yuan.
now.
But who is he here for?
We're
Everyone
fixed on the
present
bamboo
knew
pool.
that.
Yuan is a soft
Ryan bit
and
her
kind
lip.
person.
Her
She
delicate
doesn't
face,
want to punish
like a
those
pear blossom
shinnying
in spring
around
water,
her.
was
It's true
aggravated
that,
and
as
unconvinced.
her servant
but
girl,
she didn't
was
dare to
unruly.
refuse in
But
front
is
of the
it true
prince.
that the
She
Qiao
could.
families
Only look
two
away
daughters
as
are
tears
sisters
float
float
down.
down?
I'm
Her
not
face.
sure.
She
She's
didn't
Qiao
agree
Yuan.
at all.
Pretending to be
cried out
friends with
in
Yi
such an
Huan,
aggravated
or
and
are they
silent
really
manners.
sisters?
We'll find out here.
Unbearable,
There's
it
no
seems.
outsiders
that
here.
without having
no
to
one
ask
would
for
put on a
details.
false face.
He knew that she
Although
had
we
suffered
can't
a great
hear
deal
their
of
conversation.
grief.
But it's
Cece to
Jung
tell
Wan
by
was helpless
their
inwardly.
appearance and
It was
behavior.
indeed Miss
The
Second
Kite
Zhou,
whispered, who had
a few words
suffered
in
a
Qiao
great
when
deal.
sincere.
But His
She
Highness
walked to
being
Qiao.
so biased,
Yi Huan's
and
face
in
with a
defense
smile
of
on her
Miss
cheeks.
Zhou,
It
she
is
held
indeed
Qi
biased
Ao
as
Yi
well as
Huan's
a
hand.
kite. I want to go home,
looked at her
said.
with such
It's
intimacy
not good
Qiao.
for your reputation
Yi Huan
if you
was
leave
avid
the
surprise
East Palace
to
looking
see her
like
being
this.
so
Stay
intimate
in the
if
east.
even with a hint
Palace
of
and
currying
change your
favor
clothes.
with herself.
If you don't
Banyan
want to go
was
to the banquet,
really willing to be
I'll
her
have
friend.
someone send you
She
home.
is.
If you
Also
were still
willing
in the
to
mood
get
to
along
play,
with her
stay
regardless
and
of
wait for the banquet
her
to
past
end
mighty,
and leave
but
with.
only if
Your
she doesn't
eldest
treat to
sister,
steal.
Qiao
Sister
Yuan
from her
didn't
crown
say
prince.
a word.
Clearly
she
knows about
fuzzy
that
kite
Xu
to
Jie.
get up.
Why
Jing
did you
Yuan
lie?
smacked his
Qiao
lips.
Yuan
She
knit her
didn't
brows
even respond
slightly
to
as
His
she
Highness' words.
smiled and
Second
questioned
Miss
herself
Zhou really
in
is a
delicate
and
sending
stubborn
chills down
person.
her back.
She's a
Sister
bit
Miss
too bold.
stood under,
but His Highness
I really
didn't
don't
to blame
know
her.
about that shoe brocade.
So naturally, he
Qiao
would
Ryan
say
gently
anything.
twice.
Qiao
The
Yuan
smile
laughed
still
inwardly,
at the corner of her
pretending
mouth.
to be
Lifted up
obedient is
sweet
important,
and touching,
but
she pouted.
being
Submissive
Qiao
with
Yuan
one
temper
cheer was
will
an
only
easy
make
her
men.
tone of.
Think
The
the
voice
voice
made
made
her
her
feel
manipulate.
ashamed of her.
He can treat you
I couldn't tell.
casually
but
without
want to
thinking
follow
about
her
it.
wishes
Miss,
and coax her.
What
If
happened
His
to
Highness
you?
saw her
The
like
kite
this,
asked
when
would
she
he
stumbled
really
for a
dislike
moment
her?
out
Qiao
Ryan
Ryan
smiled
said
with
in
a
a
shallow
light
voice.
tilted of her
My
head.
feet are
Her
numb.
voice was
I
soft
can't
and
walk.
sweet.
At this moment,
Sister,
a
I
low
am not a
magnetic
good
sneering
person.
voice
And
rang
you
out
may
from
not be a
Asher.
good
Your
person
feet are
either.
numb in the distance.
If you are
away.
a human
Not
being,
your legs broken.
you will have
Why
a
can't you
selfish
walk?
side. Zhao Ying violently pushed her away and angry lie. Looked at her defensively. Second, Miss, don't go too far. My young lady has a good heart and is not the same as you. Qiao Yuan was not as furious as they thought she was. Would be, she just covered her chest and looked at, shinnying them with a shocked and hurt expressions. All these years, you've been protecting your sister with this kind of you've been protecting your sister with this kind of your wishness for so many years, right? But haven't you forgotten that my mother has your contract? I can sell you if I want to. At that time, you'll have no one to protect you. Shinnying clenched her hands into fists and stared at her with a deadly GLR. She stared at her with a deadly GLR. Her breaths are coming uneven in the story, even though Shinnying and Qiao Yuan are the same age, but Shinnying acted like Qiao Yuan's mother. She took care of Qiao Yuan as if she was her mother. How could she tolerate her own threats if she was so loyal? Qiao Yuan slowly added fuel to the fire. Sister wants to marry the crown prince, but he also want to be the crown princess. I'll kill anyone who gets in my way. You wicked woman. Zhao Ying was furious, her anger rising up from the bottom of her heart. Her mind was Bootsy Ang on impulse. She pushed Qiao Yuan, who was standing at the edge of the bamboo pool, downwards. Qiao Ryan cried out in shock, but her hand dilly and accurately grabbed Shinnying's hand, and both of them fell into the lake. Shinnying
Kiao Yuan didn't expect things to suddenly. Standing at the edge of the lake turned out like this. Her heart raced Xinying Xinying. Xinying was flailing around in the middle of the lake. Kiao Yuan knelt by the shore and reached out, but fortunate to pull her out. Xinying wasn't too far from the shore, so she pulled her over with all her but strength on the surface of the lake. Kiao Banyan's figure was long gone. Kite blankly glanced at Kiao Yuan and immediately shoot head out as well. It's bad. My young lady has been pushed into the water. Come quickly. The lake waters in the middle of winter was bony, chilling like cold
in the cold
Xinying
winter.
So
The
to the
howling
bone,
north wind
shined
blows
red
and
and hugged herself
the snow
tightly.
on the roof
She was
blown
so
off.
scared
The
that
sun
she
shines
almost
through
drowned.
the
Clouds
also
and pores on the
afraid
earth
that she had
but I
pushed
can't
Miss
feel
Second
any
into the
warmth.
water
It's
on
freezing.
impulse.
The
If
crunching
Second
sound
Miss
of
died like
footsteps
that,
on the snow
Madam
cave and
the
master
maid carried
were definite.
medicinal.
Lie
Food
implicated
into
Missy,
Yongning
Pavilion.
If
Unless
Mr.
the
died
biting
like
cold
that,
outside,
no one would bully
Yongning
Missy.
Pavilion
Is
Xinying
full
was
of
so
spring.
conflicted
The
that she
charcoal
anymore
burning in the
looked at the lake
incense
with
burner
trembling
emits
nerves,
acid breath,
silently
tea.
hoping that no
Here are
one would
thick
come up
and
but
soft
she
cushions.
also
On
haunted
the soft
that she
couch
would make it to the
beside.
surface.
A young
A
woman
live
holds
Kiao
half the
Yuan
aperture
knelt
book,
on the ground
lying
and
and
closing her eyes to take
but
in
she
up.
felt ashamed.
She was only wearing a
Closing
light
in on
gauzy
her
dress
when she
and
looked up.
her
She
smooth
realized
long hair
it
was
was
scattered.
the
Crown
free
prince,
lie
your
like
highness,
a black satin.
Easy, you looked at
Her
the surface of the
eyebrows
lake
are even,
as if it
with a
were
beautiful
mirror without
appearance.
a single
She
ripple.
looks like a goddess
His deep
coming out of
eyes
amber.
narrowed at
She can
edge
only be
slightly.
admired from a
Kiao
distance.
Yuan said
The maid
anxiously,
carefully
your
placed
highness,
the
medicinal
quickly let
meals on the
Jing
table.
Yuan go safe
but
Banyan.
still inevitably
Banyan
made a
is
faint
still
sound.
in the water.
The woman
Jing
on the
Yuan
soft
looked
couch
towards his
slowly
own master,
opened her eyes,
seemingly
waiting
her
for an
slender
order plop.
and curly
He
eyelashes
took off his
passed.
fox skin,
A faint
cloaked
shadow
and
on her
laughed
fair
in
face.
your highness.
Seeing
Kiao
this,
Yuan froze
knees
in
let
place,
down with applause,
unable
with
to
a
believe
trembling
the
voice.
voices.
She saw the
Miss,
kite's
forgive
face.
me. Was
I
so
know my
angsty
mistake.
that she
I know
wanted to
my
cry.
mistake.
But in
Kiao
her heart,
Wanyan
she
slightly
could grieve
frowned.
if she
The
wanted.
maid Ziyuan
This
stepped
bunch
forward.
of fools to
You
laugh.
blind thing.
Their young lady
Forgiveness.
knows how to use
I'll
water.
beat you to death
At that
with
time,
this weapon
she was
today.
still learning from.
Ziyuan grabbed
her
the little
cousin
maid,
in Yeongju,
collar and
Kiao
raised her
Yan held
hand
her
to
breath
slap her.
before
But
entering
when her
the
palm was
water,
about to fall
it was
on her
easy
face
for her to
a
climb
clear
up to
and
the shore.
pleasant voice
But
came
she
from
didn't.
behind.
She
It's
let
so
herself sink
noisy
to the
that it
bottom
hurts my
of
head.
the lake.
Let him
Looking
out.
at the lake
Kiao
surface,
Wanyan massaged
the sun's
her
reflection
temples
was
with half
incredibly
a closed
beautiful.
eyes.
The
She was
moment
not
she
in a
entered the
good
water,
mood.
It
The
was
winter
balmy,
weather
chilling
is
like
really
cold.
too
But
cold.
after she was
She went to the
completely
banquet of the
submerged,
Grand
she didn't
Preceptor
feel that
half cold
cold
anymore.
anymore.
And
the
caught a
gentle
cold
waters
when
surrounded
she
her,
came back.
and her
She
long
stayed
hair
in her
and
bedroom
long
to
skirt
recover.
flowed in all
More so, she
directions.
asked Ziyuan
She
to
saw
buy
meds to be
some
won with the
picture
water
books to pass the
He-
time.
Who
Ziyuan
would
jumped
have thought
into the lake
comic
and saw
the
the
book
most
she took
beautiful
was rare
scenery.
books.
Kiao
The
Yan
content
had
of the
squinted
book
her
matched
eyes and reached out her hand to
and
grab the
those
straw
around her
that
matched. Saved
in
her
the
life.
comics.
In the next
She
second,
is the most favored
bubbles
daughter
that
came
came
out of her
family.
mouth rose
She
up
is
in
the
a
most
talented
her magnificent
and
peach
beautiful
blossom
girl
eyes
in the
closed,
capital
and
her
fell towards the
childhood
bottom of the
sweetheart
lake
is the
He's
son of
the
the
most.
Heart
Heart-like
tightened
favorite
and he
concubine
quickly
to be
dubbed
the prince.
towards
Even
the
if she
bottom
can
of the
bend the
lake.
mother of the country.
Kiao Banyan
She
has
will be
taken
a
care
noble
of herself
princess
for many
but she is a
years
villain who
with
abandons
her slender body,
her childhood
and the
sweetness
lightheart.
of
The
covets
water,
power
when
and
Hiziyu
vain
held her
villains.
wrist.
I
Her
will
birth
cheat
is to
was
set
as
off the
weak as a
heroine.
feather.
Who
The
is his
smile
elder
on her,
sister,
facing at the
Yuan.
riverside,
He
just
Yanli,
now
his
Kiao Yuan,
childhood
who
sweetheart,
had gradually
was
turned
down
into
and
a
out
helpless
He
and
abandoned her
puzzled
without
woman.
now she
Hesitation.
fainted, and
He
no
was
longer
trampled
had and
any
humiliated
expression
in the
of emotion
dirt
because he was
pulled her
angry that his
close
years
to
of
him with
efforts
one
were
strong
in vain.
pull. And
He
let
finally
go of
focused
her
on the
wrist
the
and
second
grabbed her
prince
by the
who was
waist
made
towards the
crown prince
surface of the water to
Unfortunate.
swim.
He's
The
a
prince
prince
likes
always
his elder sister
been absent
Kiao
as cool
Yuan.
and sulfur
She's
contained
so
as
wedding
the
discord,
first frost
poisoning
and
her
snow.
elder sister.
But at the moment,
she was evil.
he was holding
in order to
Kiao
gain
Yuan,
power and
who
status.
had already
She'll
fainted.
do anything
There
to get it.
is
But
only
in the
one
end,
thought in his
after
mind.
much trouble,
The waist is
she
so
didn't
thin.
get anything
Women's waist.
she wanted.
Are they
but
all
died
so
tragically
thin?
at the
Both of
hands
them
of
floated to the
Kiao
surface of the
Yuan
lake.
Sadmire.
Zikai
On the
Weinstein
contrary,
rests on the
Kiao
Shoreline
Yuan
Kiao
did
did
nothing.
Watch
There are
the two
countless
come up
men
and
who are willing
also
to
walk
do
to the
anything
edge of the
for
lake,
her.
Your Highness.
And finally
Are you
came
all
the
right,
princess.
Jing Yuan,
She
as
will
a
have
man?
a bright future.
Although in his heart,
the
he
two
does
daughters,
like second
one
miss.
of the Kiao
But
family
second
has
Miss Kiao
all
was
resources
definitely
and
wet
favors.
after. but
coming
she
up
played her cards
as Amun
badly.
and a prince
While
guard.
the other is
He could not look at her.
disfavored concubine.
He turned his back to
but
the
she made
lick
a
and looked
good
around
life
without
with
moving.
a bod hands.
He's the
in
you.
recent years.
Sent Kiao
She has
Ryan to the
indeed
surface
followed
of the
the
lake,
storybook
and then
used all
went
her
to the
schemings
shore
and means to the
Kiao Yi.
prince. But
One felt
he
pain
only
in her
likes
heart.
Kiao Yuan.
The lake was
but
so
he never
cold.
even
I'm
looked
afraid
at
His
her
Highness
in the
would
dream just now.
catch a cold
if he
the
goes
real
into
voice
the
kept
water like
ringing.
this.
Let
Banyan
go
will be
greed.
sick again.
Cleanse yourself.
When she gets over
Be
the
a kind-hearted
Kiao
person.
Yuan handed the
Befriends
cloak
Kiao
to
Yuan.
Yu. And
Your
honestly
Highness
set him off.
Put it on.
Only in this
You're
way
a noble
can she
man.
live
If you
a
catch
good
a
life.
cold.
From this,
Wanyan looked
if you
at
catch a cold
the burning
from this,
flame in the
it's
incense
really
burner.
the sin of my
Reminds
family.
her of her final
Kiziyu
ending
took the
in the
cloak,
storybook,
but did not
she
put
was
it on
tortured
himself.
and killed by
Instead,
Kiao Yuan.
He squatted down
Admire
and put it
dying
over
in the
Kiao
permanent
Yuan's
land.
body.
Because
There was
the-
still a layer
the words
of
in the
snow
storybook
on the ground.
were too
so
Kiziyu picked
picked
her up.
She
lifted
even
her
dreamed of her
up
future
and
in
hid
her.
her in the cloak.
Dream out her
Afterwards,
face was slashed
he cleaned
and bloody,
lie
and
his
his
tendons
tendons
and
and
ligaments
ligaments
were cut
Water
off,
that she had
and
drunk,
his tongue was
cut
coughing
off.
in pain.
His eyes
Kiao
were gouged
Ryan
out.
slowly
He was
opened her
tortured
eyes
to
to
death.
Her eyes were
Kiao Wanyan
covered
nodded.
with oddness.
Looked at the
She looked
comic
around.
book in her hand.
Her body trembled
but she
slightly
didn't when
from
the
the
comic
shock.
book in her hand
After
disappeared.
she was sure
she
he
was still
clearly
alive.
fell,
Her face was buried,
asleep with it
in
his
his
hand.
just
And she
Ziwan.
looked down.
Where
and
is
cried.
the comic book in
Kiao
my hand?
Yuan, whereupon her
Ziwan
brows
was also
slightly,
a little surprised.
A trace of unknown
Miss was
emotions
holding
flashed
the
in the
book
depths
when she fell
of
asleep.
her eyes. She
Zeke
saw
Hyde
it
is worried
when
about
she
her
just
own
woke
master.
up.
How
but
could
in
it
her heart,
disappear
she's
in the
willing.
blink of an
Miss
eye?
did a good
she
job.
searched for a
Miss
long time,
awesome.
but couldn't
Kiziu's
find it.
buddy is
It
Abbott's
just
disc.
disappeared
It's
out
not
of because
thin
the
air.
temperature
At this
is
moment,
too cold.
a mate's
It's
voice came
because
from
Kiao
outside
Ryan
the door.
is buried in his
Madam
chest.
is
Crying
calling you
pitiful
over,
lie and
Kiao
improbably
Wanyan stood up.
He was
Ziyuan.
surprised that
You don't
noble
think
woman
to go
would
with me
cry when
stay
she
and look for
encountered
the
this
picture
kind of
book
thing.
carefully,
but
she
cried
only saw
so
Kiao Yuan.
pitiful lie in
We're
his
coming
arms.
the princess
For the
but
first
fell
time in
asleep
his
before.
life.
Reading the
He
rest
knew
of the
what
pages.
it meant to feel
After
sorry for
dressing
her.
up,
Kiao Wanyan
saw
put
them
on
clearly
clearly
behind the
cloak
rockery
and
although
went out.
she
Couldn't
was
hear
born
their
with a good
conversation.
appearance.
But
Her
he
face
could.
is
Tell
like
that
Kiao
peach
Yuan
blossom
was
blooming
just
in
pretending
spring.
in.
Her
In
skin
front of him
is
both in
smooth
front of
and
her
white
and
as
not in front
white
of.
jade.
Her
Even
attitude
without
and
makeup.
expression
Her
towards
complexion
her.
is as
Yihan
rosy
were
as
the
the
dame's
dame's
on the other
She
hand.
is
Shinning
very
pointed at
attractive.
Kiao Yuan
The
and
servants
saw
who
meant to be
clean.
as.
Even
Holding
though
her
they see
angry
her
lie,
often in the house,
she even pushed
can
her
without
away
being
and
attracted by her
pushed her
appearance
into the water.
The lady
thought
with a
it
face
might
like a
be.
goddess
Because of
the new
Kiao
servant
Banyan,
she told him
the
about
Mansion
Gu Yao.
all thought that she
Xu
must be
Jin,
gentle,
shinning
kind
was
and
furious
easy
when her
Virgo
lie
in
was
master.
exposed.
But after staying
In
for
such
a
a
long
servant girl
time,
stays with
they
Yuan.
realized that she was the
would
hardest
sooner
to serve.
or later harm
Keep
her.
your voice
her
down.
voice was,
Don't
force from
let
crying
anyone hear.
Kiao Banyan
Am I
suddenly
wrong?
turned.
The
Back to
adept
looking
young
for
lady
shiny
is also
when she
Amister.
saw her.
Why
She
are
stretched
all
out her
the
white
good
jade
things in the
fingers
mansion
and
are all
pointed
sent
at
to
her.
her?
Her
Her
tone
pavilion
was the
first
and is
the
guised.
second young lady
Savagery
caught
of a high-class
cold
young
and
lady.
was served like
If you
on
dare to
store.
push me
My
into the water,
eldest,
I'm going
young
to tell
lady
my
has
mother
to use
to
quilts
sell
to
you
keep
off.
warm.
Such
Stop.
a domineering tone
Talking
made sense
if
to
it weren't
Kiziu.
for the elf.
His initial
Just
impression
young
of
lady
Kiao
keeping
Yuan
butterflies
was that she
and used
was
too much
capricious
charcoal.
and petulant,
And
Miss
too
Young
young
lady
is enough.
though.
She
Xiao
may
Yan
not be the evil
glass-redded
person
him.
that Xin
What
Ying
do you
said.
know?
She was.
Father is biased,
but she must
Both
have a
our
little
daughters.
temper.
When
But
the
he can treat them
master was
equally.
bully Ed
Isn't
by
it
her
because
subordinates. The second
instantly
young lady
natural
has a
that she
charming
would say
appearances
something
and
like
thinks
that.
she has a better
Kiao Yuan
chance to marry the
immediately
prince.
said,
Don't
"Sister,
you think
it's
about the
all
prince
my
like
fault.
our eldest?
It's me fault for
Young
letting
lady.
you.
The maid
Suffering
next to her
if you
still
want to
wanted
blame
to.
me.
Blame
Persuaded.
me.
Shinning
But
has
when
been
she
with
saw
me
the
since she
person
was a
walking
child.
towards the gate,
If she was sold,
she immediately
I really
LT
don't
on
know
the
how
ground.
to live.
Xiao Yan
Kiao
also
Yan choked
turned
and
around
her words were
when she saw the
incoherent.
person coming.
I don't want it.
Her heart
I
skipped
don't
a beat.
want to.
But
if
after
she
a
dares
moment,
to push me
he
into the
stood
water
there
today,
suddenly
day.
again.
I don't know.
He was
right.
what will happen to
The
her
fact
tomorrow.
is like
Fizi
this.
looked at her
There's
empty
nothing to be guilty of.
appearance
The-
and said
the
in
young
a deep
lady is
voice,
kind,
"Ye
won,
but he couldn't
don't keep
bear.
such an
If
are you
the prince
like
does
servant
like his
with you.
young lady
Today,
everyone
I'll find
in
a
the
really
capital
able
person
person
to serve you
Qiao Wan
instead
walked up to
of her him
Qiao
the
Yi
dream
Wan's
sad
was
was
in shock.
always in her mind.
She
Don't to her
after
knees
you
with
the
a thud,
heroine,
your highness,
Qiao Yi
shinning,
Wan.
and it
And
grew up
don't
together.
embarrass
We're
the
like
people
sisters.
around the
I really
heroine.
can stand
Be
by
a good
and watch
person.
her being
Cleanse
sold.
yourself.
She
and
then
repent.
said,
Only
"Sister,
in this way
if you don't
can you
want
survive.
to be angry.
A crisp
I'll jump
laugh
into the water
sounded.
right now."
Qiao Wan
How
looked
about
at
this?
him. As
with
she
eyes
said
as if
that,
looking at garbage.
she was going to jump into the
water
vicious
as the
supporting
kind
role.
heart illy
How
happy.
can you be
Jump
whitewashed?
to jump?
Shinnying was
Freezing
not
to
convinced
death,
in
you
her heart,
only good.
but she
However,
didn't dare to
Kizi
refuse
let
her
go of
words.
Kia Wuyan.
She only
He stopped
covered
her from
face in
jumping into the
indignation.
water with
Kia
3 or
Banyan's
2
school
steps.
voice spoke,
and
kneel
his
down.
eyes were filled with
Shinnying
pain
refused to
and
kneel.
helplessness.
But the servant girl,
Z Kite-hurst in her
Kia
heart,
Banyan
she
kicked her in the
walked
leg
over and hugged her
Shinnying
own young
could
lady
only
tightly.
kneel in front of
She
her,
wanted
even
to
though
give her
she
some warmth.
didn't want to.
TH
Fox
in this
charming
way.
girl.
Kia
Is
Ryan
this how
cried.
your lady taught
Sister,
you to diss?
why are you forcing
Respect
me
your
to do
master
this?
behind her
It's
back?
obvious that
Shinny
I'm a one
gritted
who's
her
being
teeth.
wrong-ed.
She had
Why
to
do you
accompany
act
Miss
like
out
I
of the
don't
house
give
in
Ada?
the
Isn't this
eyes
afternoon
burned.
delaying, mistress?
And Kia
Kia
Wuyan
Wuyan
felt
looked
guilty
at her
and
out of
didn't
the corner of
dare
her
to
eyes.
look directly
You'll
at
kneel
her
here
for
and
a
go
moment.
back after.
She didn't
Sunset.
what to do.
As for your lady's
Kizi
charcoal
narrowed
fire,
at her
because
eyes.
of your words,
Miss Joe
you've
has
lost
indeed
next
been
month.
wrong-ed.
Next
A
month,
servant girl
S will be gone
who disrespects
too.
her
With
master
those words,
must be punished.
She started to
I'm
leave.
here to help
being,
you.
How's
Someone
sitting
else
going to be
flapping
for you?
dogs?
She's
Shittying.
been studying
He says
hard
he's here
since
for
she
Kia
was
Wuyan.
a
But
child.
who is he here
She's
for?
good at music.
Everyone present
Chess,
knew
painting,
that.
poetry,
Kiao.
wine
Ryan
flowers
bit
and
her
teeth.
lips. Why
Her
should she be
delicate
reduced
face,
to?
like a pear
green
blossom
leaf, why
in
should
spring
she be
water,
reduced to a
was
green?
aggravated
Leave
and
beside someone
unconvinced.
who is
But
not
she
as good
didn't
as she is.
dare to refuse
because
in
she's
front of the
not
prince.
kind enough.
She could.
Not stupid
Only
enough.
look away as
not good
tears
enough
flowed
to be
down
held.
her
in
face.
the hearts of those men,
She didn't cry
what's
at
wrong
all.
with being
But
power
she cried
hungry
out
and
in
vain?
such an
It
aggravated
shows
and
that
silent
she's motivated.
manners.
Inside the
most
hall of living
unbearable,
clouds.
it seems.
Kia
That
Wuyan
without
entered the
having
room
to ask
and
for
had
details,
a sister. He knew that she
the
had
cloak
suffered
off her
a
body.
great deal of
When
grief.
Jen saw her come
Vances,
in,
she
Youngwon was
smiled
helpless
broadly.
inwardly.
Her eyes
It was
full of
indeed
love.
Miss Second
It was
Joe,
as if she was
who
looking
had
at
suffered a
the
great
most
deal.
perfect piece
But
of
His
work.
Highness, being
She was
so
satisfied
biased
in her life,
and in defense
loved
of
and
Miss
proud
Joe.
of it. It
Jin
is
Shield
indeed biased
not
as well.
good. Kite.
Many
I
famous
want to go
doctors
home,
said
Kizi
that
said.
she could.
It's not
never
good
had
for your
another
reputation
child. If you
over the
leave
years.
it. East
She
Palace
only
looking
had
like
one
this.
daughter,
But
Stay
she
in the
never
East.
forced
Palace
myself
and
to
change
love her
your
daughter.
clothes.
If you
Because
don't want to
she
go to the
didn't
banquet,
save a child.
I'll have someone
Instead,
send you home.
she was joyed
if you
at the
were still
over.
in the mood to
The
play,
birth of Kia
stay
Wuyan.
and wait for
But
the banquet
now,
to end.
Jin's
and
face
leave
was
with
filled with
your
worry.
eldest
Yan
sister.
Yan.
Kia
Your
Wuyan
grandfather
didn't say
sent a
word.
shipment.
She was
of
helped by
brocade
Z Kite
when
to
you
get
go
up.
back later.
Jin Yuan
Pick the
smacked
colors
his
you
lips.
like.
She
Kia
didn't have him
brimming.
respond to his
Peach
highness
blossom
words.
eyes blinked.
Second Miss
She
Joe
sat down.
really is
On a chair
delicate
by the
and
charcoal
stubborn.
fire.
Person.
Mother,
She
did
said
something happen?
Jin
But
sighed,
His Highness
knowing that she
didn't
could
blame
blame
her.
it from her.
So naturally,
he
father
wouldn't say
heard something
anything.
after he
Kia
left the court.
Wuyan laughed
This morning,
inwardly.
King Jin
Pretending
will
to be
return to the
obedient
capital.
is important.
In a few days,
but
Jin
being
wanted to see
submissive
reaction on her
without
face.
a temper will
But
only
Kia
make
Ryan's
men
expressions
think
was
you easy
always
to
light,
manipulate,
as if
he
she
can
wasn't
treat you
surprised.
casually without
Yan
thinking
Yan.
about it.
King
Miss,
Jing
what
nearly
happened
killed
to you?
himself
For
Z
love.
Kite asked
Now
when
that
she
you
stumbled
back
for
in
a
the capital.
moment
I'm
Kiao
afraid
Ryan
he'll
said
take revenge
in a
on
shallow
you.
voice.
She knows.
My feet are
what
numb.
happened back
I
then.
can't walk.
It was fine
At
this
this
moment.
Jing,
A low
stayed in
magnetic
northern
sneering
darkness
voice
all
rang
this
out
time.
from Asher.
But now that
your
he's
feet
back
are
in the
numb in the
capital,
distance,
he's
away.
so vindictive.
Not your legs
She's
broken.
afraid her
Why
daughter
can't you walk? Would be bullied. She sheared that love breeds hate. King Jing has never had a woman with him in northern darkness. Some people sent him beauties to please him, but in the end, none of them stayed. He once said he hated all women, especially in the capital. There was a woman he hated the most in his life, Kiao. Wuyan held her hand and gently stroked it. Her voice was shallow. Mother, I was once the moonlight in his heart. Time will only make him forget my short-lead in the books. Everyone loves the gentle, weak and understanding Kiao Yihuan, not a woman like herself who can keep her face. She's not incapable of pretending to be a good girl. She wanted everyone to like her. She wanted to make those who had blocked her way to the top of the ladder. She wants those who have blocked her path to greatness to open up a